In 334 BC, Alexander the Great, just 20 years old, began one of history's most legendary military campaigns, the conquest of the Persian Empire, the superpower of his time. Born in Macedonia and tutored by Aristotle, Alexander inherited his father Philippi's dream of uniting Greece and striking east. Before marching to war, he crushed rebellions at home and destroyed Thebes to secure his rule. Then, leading an army of 40,000 men, he crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor, marking the start of an empire-building journey that would reach the edges of the known world. His fearless leadership and revolutionary tactics, including the deadly Macedonian phalanx armed with 18-foot spears, made his army nearly invincible. In just a decade, Alexander carved out one of the largest empires in history, earning his place among the immortals. To the Greeks, a hero; to his enemies, Alexander, the accursed. Alexander's army was a finely balanced force of infantry, cavalry, and skirmishers. The core of his power lay in the Macedonian phalanx, a near unstoppable wall of long spears, though difficult to maneuver and weak on its flanks. To protect it, 3,000 elite Hydaspes, or shield-bearers, stood guard under Nicanor. Behind them were Greek hoplites and mercenaries, armed with shorter spears and heavy armor. His swift companion cavalry, led by Philotas and commanded in person by Alexander, served as the army's devastating strike force. When Persian satraps gathered to resist him, they ignored advice from Memnon of Rhodes to burn the land and instead chose battle at the river Granicus. Facing a wall of Persian cavalry and Greek mercenaries, Alexander led 18,000 men across the river in a daring night assault. Outnumbered but fearless, he charged at the head of his companions, determined to win glory and crush Persia's first line of defense. As Alexander's troops waded into the river Granicus, Persian arrows and javelins rained down. Reaching the far bank, they were met by a fierce cavalry charge. In the chaos, Alexander fought at the front lines, locked in brutal combat. Struck on the head by the Persian noble Ursus, his helmet saved his life. He swiftly killed his attacker. Another warrior, Spithridates, raised his sword to strike, but Clitus the Black cut off his arm, saving the young king. With the Macedonian phalanx now across the river, their wall of spears shattered the Persian line, forcing them into retreat. The Greek mercenaries fighting for Persia begged for mercy. None was given. The massacre at Granicus opened Asia Minor to Alexander. Advancing swiftly, he captured Sardis without resistance and seized coastal strongholds, like Miletus and Halicarnassus, to weaken Persian naval power. By 333 BC, Alexander stood unstoppable, slicing through enemies and legends alike, even the Gordian knot. 18 months after crossing into Asia, Alexander marched into Cilicia, ready to push deeper into Persian territory. But King Darius III advanced behind him, forcing battle near Issus, where the narrow plain left little room for Darius' vast army, nearly 100,000 strong, including his elite immortals. Alexander, outnumbered but strategic, placed Parmenion on the left with Greek cavalry, the phalanx in the center, and led the right himself, with the companions and Hydaspes. When the Persians struck, the Macedonian center faltered, but Alexander saw the danger and led a bold charge directly at Darius' position. His assault shattered the Persian line, sending Darius fleeing in his chariot. The Persian army collapsed in panic, turning the battle into a massacre. The Battle of Issus became one of Alexander's most brilliant victories. Among the spoils were Darius' wife, mother, and children, all treated with unexpected respect by the young conqueror. Despite his victories, many Greeks saw Alexander as a tyrant. King Agis of Sparta, aided by Persia, revolted against Macedonian rule. Antipater, Alexander's general in Greece, quickly marched south and crushed the Spartans near Megalopolis. Agis himself was killed. With Greece secured, Alexander turned east, rejecting a peace offer from Darius III that included gold, his daughter, and half the empire. Alexander wanted it all. Marching into Persia, he learned Darius had gathered a massive army near Gaugamela, modern-day Mosul. Darius chose open ground, perfect for his scythed chariots and war elephants. His force, nearly twice Alexander's size, stretched across the plain. Alexander's smaller army formed in disciplined ranks, Parmenion on the left, the phalanx in the center, and Alexander leading his elite companions on the right. He advanced deliberately, luring Darius to shift his troops and weaken his center, setting the stage for one of history's greatest battles. As Darius unleashed his war chariots, Alexander's skilled javelin throwers struck down horses and drivers, while the phalanx opened lanes to let the chariots pass harmlessly through. Then Alexander led his companion cavalry in a fierce charge straight into the weakened Persian center, scattering Darius' troops. Panic spread, even the great king fled the battlefield. But on the left, Parmenian's forces were nearly surrounded by Persian cavalry. Alexander abandoned his pursuit of Darius to rescue his general, leading brutal fighting that cost the lives of 60 companions. When word spread that Darius had fled, the Persian army collapsed. Alexander's victory at Gaugamela shattered Persian power. He marched unopposed into Babylon and Susa, where he was hailed as ruler. Persepolis, the ceremonial capital, was looted and burned in revenge for Persia's invasion of Greece. Pursuing Darius east, Alexander found him murdered by his own men, and swore to rule the empire himself. Alexander the Great continued his march east, defeating the Scythians near the Jaxartes River in a crushing victory. Yet constant battles in Bactria and Sogdia drained his army's morale. His men grew weary, resentful of his adoption of Persian customs. After a drunken quarrel, Alexander killed his trusted general Clitus, a moment that haunted him deeply. His attempts to be treated like a god angered his Greek followers, leading to unrest and plots against his life. In 327 BC, he married Roxana, a Bactrian noblewoman, and pressed on into India. After fierce fighting, Alexander triumphed at the Battle of the Hydaspes against King Porus, though at great cost. When his exhausted troops refused to march farther east, Alexander reluctantly turned back, suffering immense losses crossing the Jadrusian desert. Returning to Persia, he sought to unite his vast empire through mass marriages, new cities, and reforms, but growing discontent brewed among his men. In 323 BC, at just 32 years old, Alexander fell ill and died in Babylon. His cause of death remains a mystery, but his legacy endures. Alexander's conquest reshaped the ancient world, spreading Greek culture across continents, and laying the foundations of the Hellenistic Age. Alexander's empire may have fallen, but his legend never did. If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the American Rewind, where the past always comes alive.